So here what we're doing is we're using what's called the hopper, and we're releasing all the chemical. We want to make sure we filter it out through the hopper here. So we're just going to go ahead and let that all kind of empty out. We're going to do another one so we can work on this one in the meantime. All right. So next we're just going to give it a quick blow. We're going to take apart the fire extinguisher, the head. We got our siphon tube here, spring. We're going to get our valve stem out. And from here we're going to go inside the head. We're going to make sure we clean it all out. We want to clean every single part of the head, including threading. Go through our valve stem next. Got to make sure there's nothing left on here as far as dry chemical. So we got to make sure that this is completely clean, just because this rubber seal here is what seals the head of the extinguisher to make sure that there's no pressure released and there's no leakage. And then here we got our spring. Same thing, this is what holds that valve stem up. So we want to make sure that this is nice and clean. It's good to go back and make sure it's still pretty strong to hold up that valve stem, because this was going to go here and push the valve stem up into the head. And this here is our siphon tube. This is where the chemical travels through. Now that everything's nice and clean, we have to lubricate everything. Everything's nice and lubricated. Go back into the head. Valve stem first, spring next, siphon tube last. Sealed. Valve stem came back up. Make sure the gauge is still reading 0. Now that's done. We're gonna go put our focus back on the cylinder. We're gonna move over to our Getz machine here. This Getz machine, all the filter has been filtered now. So now we're going to turn this on and it's going to siphon all the chemical back into the cylinder. You can see it travel here. And then we're looking for this to start pulling chemical up as of now. So now that it started pulling chemical out, it means, because it's doing a suction, so that means that the chemical got high enough for it to be pulled back in here. And we got our collection jar here. It's our overflow jar. It's protecting the cylinder from overflowing. So I want to give it a quick shake. Let the chemical settle for a bit. Look inside. It's looking good. So we're going to grab our cylinder. We're going to grab our hose, our pull pin, and our actual head, and we're going to make our way over to the scale. So every fire extinguisher has a weight that it has to meet. So this one here, with the hose, every attachment, it's reading 8 pounds, 14 ounces, plus or minus 6 ounces. So we have to put the head here, open, because that makes a difference. Your hose, and finally the fire extinguisher. and it's giving us 8.4. And this is 814 points plus or minus 6, so we're a little bit low. So we got to take it back over and make sure we top it off, make sure it meets that requirement. Come back here, and now it's giving us exactly 9, which is perfect. We went right where we need to be at. So now that we met the weight standards, we're gonna bring all of our pieces back together over here. Now from here, get to wiping down the extinguisher, go in here, and there's threading in here as well. You want to make sure that threading is nice and clean. Our finger here with a rag, do one last wipe down. This here is called a collar tag. This certifies the last time the fire extinguisher was opened. We have to sign it here. License number here. Every technician has their own assigned license that they have to get through the office of the state fire marshal. Go over here, we'll hole punch it for this year. And then we are in October still. It's the day that I got broken down. We'll go here, go back to this one here, the head. Got to make sure we lubricate this last piece, this little O-ring here. So we'll hit it there. Use our finger. Make sure we evenly disperse it. And go back in. One thing about this, the gauge needs to line up with the center of the label here. So we have to make sure we get that right. There we go. Now that's lined up, we're ready to repressurize. So we got to make sure we clean these adapters every time we're going to use them to pressurize the extinguisher. We don't want any residue chemical left behind, because we just did all that work to clean the head, and we don't want anything messing that up or compromising it to make it leak. So we always want to double check our regulator, make sure it's at 195 psi, because that's what this extinguisher is requesting. We do our quick connect, we open up our valve. From there, we press down on this, make sure we hold it until it's completely done. We let go, close our valve here, release. We're going to remove this here. One very important thing is always put your pull pin in before you do anything else, because now the extinguisher has pressure. You don't want to accidentally discharge it. Make sure our seal's on. It's nice and tight. Now that we've done that, we go ahead and do a leak test. Every single extinguisher needs to go through a leak test. We put here what's Mr. Bubbles. We'll close that up. We'll give it at least 10 to 15 seconds and wait, make sure that there's no bubbles coming up from the valve here. And that'll give us an A-OK that the extinguisher has no leakage. Now that we're good, empty that out. And we want to make sure this is moved so it doesn't block anything as far as the label goes. Grab our certification. Same thing as our 6-year maintenance certification. This is our annual certification. Same thing, we put our license number, we sign, then we hole punch for today's date. Now it's ready to go to a customer.